Hello there, men, and welcome to the Masculinism Movement channel, a place for men to be men and talk about masculinity and men's issues. I'm your host, Brian Krall, and today I want to talk to you about female vampirism. But first, allow me to just draw your awareness to the like button below, which is very useful to me and helping my channel with the YouTube algorithm if you happen to press it. But now on to female vampirism. Perhaps you have heard the myth of the succubus before. Succubus is a word that originally meant to lie beneath or to lie in bed. The story is the myth of a female spirit or demon who seduces a man and has sex with him, which being a supernatural entity, she is often said to do whenever he is having dark sexual fantasies or sometimes in his dreams while he is asleep. She does this in order to drain his energy and steal his seed away from him and then have his offspring. And not with him as a happy family, mind you, but away from him and on her own so that she can raise it herself and have whatever evil influence over it she wants to have. The female then leaves the man feeling drained of energy after the sexual encounter. Now, does any of this sound familiar to any of you men out there? Because I think we all know women who have done that to men. And it may not come as a surprise to you that this is something that has always been a problem for men. This succubus story is an ancient myth, probably with a number of variations, but as with all such fairy and folk tales, this is a warning to young men about things that do happen. Now, fast forward to today, and as we can see in modern pornography, men have a subconscious sexual fetish towards women who want their seed bad enough to try to take it by any means necessary. When a woman tells a man she wants him to come inside of her, it is such a turn-on that he does it almost instantly on her command, regardless of whether it is actually a good idea or not. There's even a lot of popular pornography based around the themes of women stealing the cum of men against their will, or women getting men to ejaculate inside them who really shouldn't be doing so, and even women dressing up as succubi and seducing the man's seed out of him. This is because of how men are wired sexually by nature. Nature has wired us with the biological imperative to reproduce. Even if we have decided we do not want children, there are still hardwired reproductive instincts deep in our brains that like the idea of a woman valuing our seed and wanting to reproduce with us. Instincts which are programmed to find it incredibly arousing, and more so the more attractive she is. So if she is attractive enough, enough to be seen as like a MVP of genetic mates, that our bodies will simply act on their own and give her the semen she wants with or without the consent of our rational minds. And women have always known they have this power over us, that anytime they want to reproduce with a man, all they need to do is seduce him, and that once they've aroused him enough, his primal sexual instincts will simply make his body comply and give her what she wants. And women know that they can get pregnant by him and then either choose to raise it on their own, or with another man, or force him to raise it with them, or force him to provide for them to do so while they raise it as a single mother. They are the ones with the power in that dynamic. This is something that has been a problem for us men since time immemorial. So ancient wise men wrote myths of the succubus, warning men of these seductresses who will try to slip into their beds and steal their seeds, because this is an actual thing that women do, which is often done with nefarious intentions. And women are so successful with their mating strategy, and men are so easily exploited through their sexuality, that many a man has fallen prey to these seductive vampiric women throughout history. For once sexually aroused by an attractive woman, even a strong man is made weak and compliant. For all his body wants to do at that point is to achieve orgasm, and he considers himself lucky if that is what the woman is trying to do for him, even if she is trying to do it to steal his seed for her own gain, which, again, his biological imperative is just fine with that. And we are unable to think clearly and consider in these moments of intense arousal before orgasm that these women who have seduced us and appear to be these beautiful angels of pleasure are actually evil demons of slavery and suffering in disguise. It seems that from the time that the myth of the succubus was written so long ago, all the way up until today, nothing has changed in that sense. Women have always been able to lay claim to men's seeds with a simple flick of the wrist. In fact, we men complain about women stealing a lot more from us than just that. Other resources and assets are things I've already spoken of enough, and we all know about women's propensity to rob us of them. But what if women were actually taking much more from us than even that? What if they were taking our energy and our life force from us? It would certainly coincide with the draining of our other resources in a way that doesn't seem coincidental, does it? And do you ever feel like being around women drains your energy? Well, let's look into this more. In 2002, a man named Dr. Joe Slate, PhD, wrote a book called Psychic Vampires. And this is a book about the science of people's energy fields. Understand? And in this book, he describes a scientific test that was done by photographing people's energy fields. Just like that. You see? And while this test found that some people have light energy fields, just like the ones I just showed you, others have dark energy fields, often which have sharp tentacles emanating from them. And the author theorizes that when someone with a light energy field is in contact with someone with one of these dark energy fields with tentacles, that the dark tentacles would lacerate the other person's field and then basically suck and leech off of their energies. Now, when I'm summing it up for you like this, I know that it sounds far-fetched and like science fiction, but the author, Dr. Joe Slate, is a PhD, and this book is going over an actual scientific study that took place, so it only seems far-fetched until you actually read the book and the study about these things. All right, and then it seems more like a pretty logical explanation for how some people make us feel. So any skeptics should go ahead and check this book out online or wherever, at least look up the study and the pictures, which I'm sure you can find online. But I know you're probably wondering, well, what would this even mean? As I said, the author theorizes that these dark energy people are sucking the energy from others when their tentacles lacerate them, and that they are actually what would be very accurately called energy vampires. The name of the book is Psychic Vampires, but energy vampires is another synonym. And again, I know these terms may sound like sci-fi or fantasy or fairy tale type of stuff, which the term succubus actually is. But let's bring this concept into the real world and see what it could actually look like in some real life situations. Because I actually read this book a long time ago when I was younger, not too long after it had been published. And I would remember it from time to time when I was having an interaction with a woman that made me feel a certain way. And it seemed like at times the women who I became attached to emotionally or sexually would seem to have this energy draining effect on me. It would happen during specific times, like sometimes during sex or during drama, listening to the woman vent to me and, feeling like she's using me as an emotional tampon, or dealing with certain other types of situations with her, like, for instance, if she was in a certain type of mood. It was as if these women were sucking my life force when they were in certain states of mind or we were having certain types of interactions. And I wonder if I'm alone in feeling this way, or if there are other men out there who have also felt like their women drain them, like psychic vampires. And I can only surmise that I must not be alone in this if there is this whole book written on it. So how many of you men out there have ever felt drained by women? If you have, please let me know in the comments below. Now, one of the biggest things that has made me feel drained by women is when I would fall in love with one, and then we would go through a very hurtful breakup in which she would ruthlessly rip my heart out, and they would always leave me feeling as though I was actually missing a part of my soul or something. Like there was this big, empty black hole inside of myself. Like they'd literally taken a chunk of my spirit or something when they left. And also, usually leading up to a really bad breakup, there's often a period where the woman is just draining my energies more and more for weeks or even months. And, things are just getting worse and worse in that aspect. And then eventually we split, and it's like she takes as much of it as she can. In fact, I feel like being in love with someone is like opening your soul to them and becoming one with them, at least as a man it is. And that you're basically giving yourself to them, at least in part, or, in spirit, or in mind, or in essence. And that when they break up with you after that and leave you heartbroken, part of the reason it feels so bad is because it was like you had lost a part of yourself, right? Not only the part that was them, that you had started to identify as a part of you, but in merging with them and then them leaving you, they actually may have taken a part of your very own spirit with them. It certainly feels like a part of you is gone, like they have taken a piece of you or your soul or aura or energy or whatever you want to call it when they leave you. And I think that men need to be more aware and cautious about this before allowing themselves to fall in love and make love to a woman, because in doing so, you're actually sharing your spirit and life force energies with her. Something that has been spoken of in Taoism and Tantra and shamanism and many ancient spiritual traditions. And in opening yourselves to her emotionally and allowing yourself to become vulnerable in that way and getting attached to her emotionally and, spiritually, if you are a spiritual person, you are establishing such a powerful emotional and energetic connection with her that it is going to hurt and leave you feeling much worse for a while if she is to ever break it. It will be very similar to like coming off of a drug binge or something. To illustrate just the power and impact a succubus can have on a man, allow me to tell you the story of the worst one that I ever dealt with. You see, before I was a playboy, I was at one point in my life a young, naive guy who didn't understand women. And once, when I was rebounding from a breakup at the age of like 21, I got seduced by a crazy, hypersexual she-devil who made it impossible for me to say no to her. She would come over after work, and using money she stole from her job, she would take me out to dinner wherever I wanted to go and, basically pay for me to eat and drink whatever I wanted. She'd get me drunk, then she'd get me high, then she would fuck my brains out. And she would basically do this any day that I wanted her to, any day that I would say yes to her. She would call me up almost every single fucking day after work asking me if I wanted to hang out. And I didn't usually have anything better to do to turn down such a good deal of basically partying, all night for free. And so we sort of had this sexual party-based relationship that was basically, based on her whining and dining me and, getting me fucked up and fucking my brains out. And in time, she told me that she was basically addicted to my cum and couldn't get enough of it. And eventually, when I wouldn't commit to her and stopped dating the other women who I was much more serious with, who were much more attractive than her and much more mature and much more successful and had much better personalities, were just better women than she was and much more girlfriend material, much more intelligent, just much more of everything you would want in a woman. When I wouldn't stop seeing them and get more serious with her, she took herself off birth control and got herself pregnant to entrap me, which she did because she was either unwilling or unable to woman up and, do self-development and try to become a better woman who would be more girlfriend material to me. She didn't want to work on herself. She didn't want to work on a relationship. No, she wanted to do things the easy way, right? We're talking about a party girl here. So she took herself off birth control without my knowledge and then kept continuing to extract my semen from my cock with her vagina every chance she could and trying to usurp these other women, and did successfully get herself pregnant, and then did what pregnant women who have done this do and used the child to get me, the man, to step up to the plate and be a good life partner to her and father to the son. That succubus cunt made me her love slave for literally 4 years before I finally escaped her plantation. And in spite of all the partying and sexual pleasure I got in the first year or so, once she had me fully locked down and got me to move in with her and basically turned me into her house husband, where I found myself living in a nightmarish captivity that was very difficult to escape from, those were some of the worst years of my life. She was so controlling, manipulative, domineering, psychologically and physically abusive, and just oppressive in every way she possibly could be. That in the final year, the amount of stress she was causing my brain was literally basically causing me to be unable to sleep without huge doses of 2 different medications. So I basically had like no energy. Whatever little energy I could muster up, I had to use to spend, caring for my child and such. And so because I was living in this energy deficit, my immune system basically started crashing. And I spent 3/4 of the year deathly ill. Now, seeing that she could no longer use me as the social utility she had latched onto, and that I was effectively all used up, she latched back onto an old high school boyfriend and got pregnant by him within 2 weeks of their reunion. And then threatened me to get me to leave, which is what I did, choosing homelessness in the winter over living in that concentration camp anymore. So this to me is the non-fairy tale version of the succubus story, as it can, will, and often does happen in real life. Women use their sexuality and reproduction to steal a man's time, energy, and money, and any other resources she can get out of him until she's drained him of everything she can, leaving him destroyed before moving on to a man with more. And mind you, this was with a girl who I was never really attracted to. She was average looking at best. She was much lower than me in the social hierarchy. I really didn't care about her romantically or want a relationship with her. She just made me offers that I couldn't refuse, and I figured I could get my rocks off and, just enjoy the party and try to stay detached and try to keep it under control, but I quickly lost control, and she took it because, like most women, she has men's thumbscrew, sexual pleasure. And if she can't go straight to sexual pleasure, then she will intoxicate him and seduce him. And this should show you that this can and will even happen with a woman you don't even want romantically and have no such feelings for. In fact, you can develop romantic feelings for a woman without wanting to, or even realizing that you are. Because during sex, we are connecting with a woman psychologically in ways we are not even aware of. The brain is secreting pair bonding hormones like oxytocin, trying to make us fall in love with her while we have sex with her, trying to form this subconscious pair bond between you two in case she gets pregnant. And we are connecting ourselves with her biologically as well, for women actually integrate a little bit of DNA from any man they have sex with. And we can also be connecting with her spiritually in ways we are not consciously aware of too, through our energy fields, as has been talked about in the Psychic Vampires book. So we often catch feelings for women when we didn't even think we were emotionally available to them. And we can often then fall in love with them and enter relationship mode when we didn't even want that. This is because feelings of love and attachment are able to happen without our consent or even our knowledge, and we may not realize that we are creating these feelings while we are doing so, and only realize that we were once we already have them and are stuck with them at that point. For falling out of love isn't something we can choose to do and is a difficult process. And it is sex that is most often the cause of these loving feelings, for that is what causes the most pair bonding hormones to be secreted in your brain. This is why sex, when done in a romantic context, is called making love. You are actually creating a love pair bond between you when you have sex with a woman with loving thoughts in mind. And when you ejaculate inside a woman and give her your spiritual seed, there's a very physical component to this that most men don't realize. Your semen contains not only your sperm, but your DNA. It is genetic material, you see. And when you implant that inside of the woman, even if she does not get pregnant, it gets absorbed into her and she assimilates your genetic code into hers. Science has proven this to be the case. So this is not metaphysics or theory that we are talking about here. We know that when you mate with a woman, that you give her your genetic material, which she can either get pregnant with or not, but will always assimilate into hers. And science has also proven that the act of sex creates these pair bonding hormones that cause feelings of love, like oxytocin, causing a man to become so emotionally attached to the woman and to be less aggressive and hurtful with her and more caring. So, as you can see, there are multiple levels upon which women literally prey upon their mates by seducing them into a symbiotic attachment with them, in which they can feed off of them like a parasite off of a host, be it physically, mentally, or spiritually. And it is love, romance, seduction, and sexuality that make that possible. Those are the mediums that they use to infiltrate our being and extract what they need from us. For women are sexual vampires, and men are their prey of choice that they feed off of through the act of copulation. So it is very important to look upon women with a suspicious awareness of the way that they relate to men as a virus to host, or a vampire or a succubus to its victim. And you should react to any female advances with a serious sense of defensiveness and caution. You see, women will almost never take sexual initiative with a man unless they are going to gain some sort of ergonomic benefit from it. So when a woman is making sexual advances upon you and trying to seduce you, you have to ask yourself why she is doing it, what she hopes to gain from you, because it could be any number of things: your bank account, your house, your mental health, your genes, or even your life and your soul. Remember the story of the succubus and do the right thing. Run. That concludes this talk. I hope I mansplained that well enough for you guys out there. Thanks for listening. Be sure to share your own thoughts and opinions on female vampirism by commenting below. And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and share these messages with everyone by sharing the video on social media and talking about these things too. And lastly, check out the links in the description below for other resources for your masculine and personal development, living the life you want as an independent man. And if you can afford to donate, please do so with the PayPal link below, because your support funds me doing this work and fighting the good fight for men like you. And you can stay tuned for the next video coming out soon, which will be on the myth of female monogamy and loyalty. And make sure you subscribe so you'll be notified when that is. And until then, take care of yourselves, men, because no woman out there is going to.